Welcome, astrology lovers. You are tuned in to Astrology Hub TV, and my name is Amanda Walsh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Astrology Hub. It is so great to be here with you today. After not having Astrology Hub TV for a couple weeks, I'm so excited to be back, and it's wonderful to be connecting with all of you, and especially with our guest today, Adam Gainsburg, who I will be introducing here in a moment. Astrology Hub TV is a weekly show dedicated to helping you explore your connection to the cosmos and how cultivating this connection can help you lead a more empowered, fulfilling, and vibrant life. We're here live every Thursday at 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern. And if you'd like to receive a Facebook message every time that we go live, you can do so by signing up for live alerts. The link to do that is in the chat and also above this video. All right, so this summer, before we get into Adam, I'm going to tell you about a very exciting event that we have happening on Tuesday. It is our summer forecast event that is going to get you up to speed on all of the energies happening this summer. We have an amazing lineup of 4 astrologers who will each be taking about 25 minutes to tune us into the forecast for the summer. And then we will also have a live panel at the end with all of them. We will be featuring Kai Pacha, Gemini Brett, Carol Ferris, and Davina Del Sol. So 4 amazing astrologers. Can't wait to share them with you. And that will be coming up on Tuesday. I don't have the time here. Shoot. But it's Tuesday, June 5th. We'll put the time for that in the chat and also in the link above. But please join us for that. It's totally free. And here are some of the topics we're going to be covering. We're going to be talking about the big theme for the summer and what you can do to align with it. We're going to talk about how you can maintain balance and optimism no matter what's happening in the world. We're going to talk about Uranus in Taurus, Mars retrograde, and the triple eclipse happening this summer and what that means for you. How you can take greater care of yourself this summer. So if you're one of those people who is feeling a little bit off balance or wondering how you'll maintain everything during the summer, I know as a mom, it gets really crazy. So if you're like that and you would like to know how to maintain some balance this summer, we'll be talking about that. What you can do and build this summer that hasn't actually been possible before. So there's a lot of windows of opportunity here that you can take advantage of. And then how will the 2 grand trines with Jupiter and Neptune play out in the world? So lots of amazing content. Again, with those 4 astrologers, it's totally free. If you'd like to join us, you can do so. The link to register is in the chat and above the video. Inner Circle members, you don't need to register. You will be given the link directly. So don't worry about registering if you're an Inner Circle member already. Okay. Today, we are going to be talking about revitalizing our relationship with the planets and the stars through direct observation. In this talk with professional astrologer Adam Gainsburg, you are going to learn why and how the feminine and masculine aren't what we think they are, where to find them in the chart and where not to find them, why understanding Synastry charts can help transform your relationships, and what all of this is in service to. So we're going to be talking about this. And the episode is for you if you want to dive deeper into Mars and Venus, having a deeper understanding of them. You want to balance the masculine and feminine energies within yourself. You want to take astrology from knowledge to experience. And you want to live in deeper relationship with astrology. Okay, so I had the distinct pleasure of meeting Adam Gainsburg in person at the UAC conference this last week. And he is as amazing or even more amazing to meet in person as he is when you experience him here. So I'm just so excited to be featuring him again, so close to having met him in person. And of course, we have been featuring Adam's work for the entire time that we've been in existence. So the last 2.5 years, Adam has been one of our favorite astrologers. So it's great to have you back, Adam. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure, Amanda. Thank you again very much for having me. Hello, everyone.
So a little bit more about Adam. Adam Gainsburg is an author, teacher, and consulting astrologer focused on invigorating today's astrologers with the living intelligence of a reunited astrology and astronomy as direct experience. His work on the heliacal cycles of the visible planets, the physics of the lunar nodes, a tantric map of Venus and Mars, a 4-stage process for chironic wholeness, and a model of the sky factors of the planets are assisting the astrological vision to more fully meet the demands of our postmodern world. Wow, Adam, that's some pioneering work there.
I'm just doing what I'm doing. I don't know.
You're doing what you're doing. You are who you are. It's beautiful. Okay, so does anyone, and this is a question for all of you out there, do any of you know about the opportunities we have specific to Venus and Mars this summer? I'd love to hear if you're kind of clued into the Venus-Mars energy this summer, and if you are, then share some of your insights and comments below. But Adam, while they're doing that, let's dive in. Can you tell us about the masculine and feminine energies and why they are not what we think they are?
Great. So when I say that they're not what they think they are, here's what I'm really meaning. The masculine and feminine are so ubiquitous. They are so in everything. We can't look at anything. We can't consider, contemplate, reflect, meditate, reject, abhor, denigrate anything without touching in the masculine and the feminine together. They are literally the raw materials of everything in physical, everything in the mental realm, and everything in the metaphysical or spiritual realms. So on the chart, when we're learning astrology, that can be a little bit overwhelming. So what I like to do is I like to start by saying the masculine and feminine can most easily be found through any of the planets that are polarities. So sun and moon, for example. In that partnership, the sun, pure light, pure consciousness, might be seen to be masculine. And the moon, the changing, undulating life and, if you will, death every month, you have the feminine. But at the same time, you can also say that the sun, with its ever available source of vitality, energy for things to grow, that's the feminine. And you can say the moon is masculine in its diligent and never-ending protection of home, what's most valuable, safety, security. That, I don't mean in a negative way, defensiveness, but like defending, standing up against challenges or obstacles to that could also be seen as very, very masculine, very, very vigorous, kind of a masculine protecting what is most sacred. Now, I just want to say that this is a very, very alternative view to call the moon masculine and the sun feminine. But that's my point. In astrology, you get them all. So you can also see it, of course, in Jupiter and Saturn as well. My main focus in astrology, masculine and feminine speakingly, is, of course, Mars and Venus. And even when we start to look at that, Amanda, Mars clearly being the most obvious masculine symbol, Venus being the feminine symbol, you start to get different levels at which they relate, different levels at which they co-create. So the best, easiest way to do it is look in your chart, look at Venus, wherever she is on your chart, sign house aspects. And if you're a woman, that is your most direct personal identity, both conscious and unconscious, for what it is, what you mean when you say, I am a woman. What do you most value there? How do you receive life? How do you receive and give love? Venus, feminine. Men, and same thing with men. So if you're a man, that Venus inside of you is what you're going to be most attracted to in others with the feminine. And we reverse it with the reverse. With Mars, let's say for men, this is who you are as a direct embodiment of the masculine principle. What motivates you? What irks you? What gets your ire up? What gets you angry? What gets you excited? And in a masculine way, what gets you hot and what doesn't get you hot? Meaning hot for action, hot for going, for achievement. Okay? And then same thing for women. Women's Mars is the qualities of her own inner masculine that she's going to be attracted to in someone else, women or men, it doesn't matter, that has a reflection or a mirror back to her in her inner masculine. So it's always a good reminder in relationships, when we're dating or meeting someone new, is whoever we're attracted to is mirroring some aspect of ourselves that's already in us. It's not like the person has something that's so foreign, exotic. It's that maybe we haven't come into contact with it as much. And this applies for both.
So Adam, I once heard that okay, so for example, my Mars is in Leo. And as
Yeah,
long as I was not embodying my own Leo nature,
yeah,
I would project it, like
yeah.
you're saying, I would project it out and be attracted to the Leo nature in men.
Men, yes, yes,
Okay.
that's
Well,
exactly
my
right.
first husband was a Leo. So is that true? And I mean, even if I was embodying the Leo, and I'm just using myself as an example, but even if I was embodying the Leo, would I still be attracted to that energy, or would there be a different relationship with that externalized energy? Do you understand my question?
Yeah, you'll all, because your Mars is in Leo, you will always be drawn to people who take action, Mars, people who exude or exert themselves, Mars, from or as Leo energy, Leo consciousness, which is what I call Leo the sign of all the 12, where it's the mystery school of centered in selfness. We are really, really learning like confidence to an extreme, but not hubris, not arrogance. That's not confidence. That's the absence of true confidence. Because true confidence always includes other people, always includes the welfare, the consideration, and the fun having with other people in their Leonine nature. So if I'm projecting, as you said, when you're projecting your Mars and Leo onto a man or onto anyone with Leo, psychologically speaking, what that's guaranteeing is that whoever you attract is always going to let you down. They're never going to fulfill ever. Because why? Because the nature of projection is I'm already committing to not owning it myself. That's where the energy it gets wrapped up over here, doesn't flow, and has to kind of come out this way through what's called projection. So the nature of projection itself, it doesn't matter whether we're projecting onto God, Goddess, Mother Earth, the purity of an angel. If I'm projecting, it's guaranteeing I'm never going to actually receive the true, full, holistic blessing of whatever it is I'm interested in or drawn to.
That is really interesting. Okay. Can you give us an example of the Venus? So you explained, the theory. Can you give us an example of how the Venus works?
Yeah. So let's say for women. Okay. A woman with Venus pick a sign, Amanda.
Gemini.
Okay, great. A woman with Venus in Gemini. She is going to always be relating to the function of her, or some functions of her intellect, her mental function, and specifically how her mental function gives her information both for safety and for excitement, creativity about her environment. Gemini is very much an environmental sign. It's always seeking. And that environment doesn't have to be outside of me physically. It certainly includes that. It could also be my own inner mental environment. It could be more like an etheric astral body environment, right? I'm remembering some people with Venus and Gemini that I used to know who have this remarkable ability to know instantly what angels and what devas and what energies are in her space. That's a very Venus and Gemini thing. So, but when she's projecting that, if she's projecting that outward, now what's happening is she's expecting other people to meet her there. Mm. And see, the nature of Venus is very different than the nature of Mars as a planet. The nature of Venus is to want to unite, to want to find rapport, to want to, find harmony and a way that we can work together, or at least agree peacefully that we're going to go separate ways. So when we're projecting our Venus, it's difficult because the nature of Venus is to want to connect. So when we're projecting, it means we don't actually want to connect. We have an ulterior motive. And this might be an unconscious ulterior motive. We may not be aware of it.
Wow. Okay.
It's great. These kind of deeper themes, Amanda, that play in with when you really start talking about the masculine and the feminine, not just what they write about in the books and kind of the superficial stuff. You really start to look at this as like, wow, I got to deal with my masculine and my feminine together in my own self first before I can really have confidence with other people.
Well, and it sounds like confidence and any level of fulfillment.
Indeed.
If we're projecting it out, we'll never experience or feel it back from the other person. So
it's true.
Okay. So you gave a talk at UAC and had a very different approach to synastry than I've ever heard before.
Thank
Can
you.
you tell us about your different and what I loved about it is it seemed so practical and easily applied. You know, even if you haven't been studying astrology for decades, it's something that with a little bit of understanding, you'd be able to look at two charts and break it down to the most important elements to look at. And I think that's really helpful for people out there. So can you tell us a little bit about that approach and what you're looking at?
Yeah, so it's called the Soulsign Relationship Map. And it's my technique for using two charts, as you said, in my counseling work with couples. So basically what the intention of the map is, I'll keep this real simple, is, relationships can be defined successful in many different ways. If let's say I'm with my wife and we can look back over the last 5 years and we say, you know what, in the last 5 years, we've not had one argument. Success. Some people call that a successful, healthy relationship. Other people, and I know many who would say, that's a failed relationship because there's some kind of missing part there where two people are not the same. There's going to be disagreement. There's going to be. Anyway, what I'm looking for in the map is two things to be achieved at the same time. One is where you and I can go deep together. There's a profound intimacy and a profound trust and sacred kind of closeness. So depth. At the same time, the same two people are looking to grow together. Going deep is not the same thing as transforming and evolving. Some relationships become complacent because they're very, very deep, and that's where they go. That's where the two people meet, but there's not a lot of growth, evolution, transformation, and vice versa, the other way. Some other relationships are so focused on evolution, they're more like evolution mates than they are deep intimates. So what the map does is it tries to expose, or it tries to illuminate on the two charts, basically what each person's life dharma is, what their life purpose is, what each person's sacred masculine and feminine is, what each person's wiring for a relationship is, which is different than the masculine feminine, and finally, what is there? Have you heard this term, sacred marriage, the holy union, the hieros gamos? So it's talking about a person's inner, when we really do the marriage of my masculine and my feminine, it's like 1 + 1 becomes 3, where we retain the one and the one, but now them coming together has a whole third holding it all. And that's what the map kind of talks about. And really what it's going for there is, how can we basically grow up and mature ourselves in our relationships? Not just keep looking to the partner to keep fulfilling our emotional needs. It's wonderful to have our emotional needs fulfilled. I'm a big fan. But to become dependent, borderline addicted on that, that's where growth stops.
So Adam, what are the main elements that you're looking at in that map?
Yeah, the lunar.
I'm seeing in the chart.
Oh yeah, on the chart. So the lunar nodes, Mars on the chart and Mars in the sky, which is two different aspects of Mars. Venus on the chart, Venus in the sky. The descendant, the point opposite the ascendant, the angle. In other words, the sign that was setting over the western horizon at the moment of birth. And then what's known as the Mars-Venus midpoint.
And how did you get to this unique recipe? How did you choose those elements out of all the elements you could look at?
17 to 18 years of experience of mostly realizing, that's useful, but it's not endemic to a relationship success across both of these vectors, the depth and the growth. The growth is not vertical. I mean, the growth is always spiraling out and in and up and down at the same time. But so that's really how I came to it. I came to it because I would counsel couples, and a year later they'd come back, hey, that was really great when we worked together last, now we're at this point. I'm like, wow. So the astrology map, as I was taught how relationships work best, Synastry, it got to them there, but it was certainly not taking them there. That's how I came to it, a lot of experience. And also, Amanda, I must admit, I have kind of a high bar when it comes to what it means to be truly embodied in ourselves. A lot of people don't wouldn't put this many requirements on it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, in listening to the talk that you gave, that it definitely gives a more well-rounded picture of the relationship dynamics. And like you said, more from a higher perspective, not just, are we gonna not fight?
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
Exactly.
that could be great, but
Yeah.
maybe that's not what you're really going for with the relationship. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you mind, Jan is just wondering if you can repeat the positions that we're looking for in the chart.
Right. The lunar nodes, Mars on the chart, meaning sign house aspects, Mars in the sky. So that's way too much to get into right here, Amanda. But if people are interested in the Mars and Venus in the sky, it's best to just, because I have all this material already, videos and articles, it's on my site. In fact, there's a whole set of audio courses and handouts and everything about, if you really want to find your natal Mars in the sky and your Venus in the sky, that's the way to go. And there's a lot of videos, easy downloads and all that stuff at my website, soulsign.com. So Mars and Venus in the chart.
Soulsignastrology.com, right? Soulsignastrology.com.
Sorry. Yeah, it's both of them. Soulsignastrology.com. Yep. And then the descendant, meaning the point opposite your rising sign, your setting sign, and the Mars-Venus midpoint, which is simply the mathematically calculated position between Venus and Mars on the chart. So if my Mars is at 0, let's say Aries, and my Venus is at 0 Taurus, the midpoint between them would be 15 degrees of Aries. See, it's exactly the midpoint. And that point represents a potentiality cellular. It's almost like the Mars-Venus midpoint would be what? Your teacher, if you found the perfect teacher for you to teach you how to unify your masculine and feminine together, that's what they'd be taking their instructions from when you came to them to take teachings and classes or get healing work or be challenged in some of your assumptions. That tantric teacher would be showing you your Mars and Venus midpoint as a viable, not just as potential up there, it's a viable solution. And I'll tell you, anyone who is very intrigued by this topic of masculine and feminine, not philosophically, not theoretically, and not just superficially astrologically, I would really encourage you to start doing your own reading on what the deep masculine, what the deep feminine really is. For some people, that's going to look like tantra work, which doesn't necessarily mean sex. Other people, it's going to mean meditation. Other people, it's going to mean doing healing work. So it really depends on each of us. But if this idea that I'm sharing intrigues you, really start inquiring yourself about where and what. There's so many avenues now available for healing, materials, books, articles, teachers, meditations that you can avail yourself of.
And how would you know if you're a good candidate for that? If that would be really beneficial for you to go down that track?
There's no way to know beforehand. There's no way to know, short of your strong intuition saying, don't go here, or yes, you have to go here, come here, go this way. Short of that, there's no way to firmly know in your mind. Here's why. Tantra undermines your ego identity. So all the ways we consciously and unconsciously believe about ourselves and who we are, always tantric practice, which could include meditation, will consistently kind of take that ball of your self-image, your safety definitions, and kind of go play kind of gentle like tetherball with it. And if you're willing to take the ride and be uncomfortable for a while, some remarkable healing and incredibly enlightening things might happen for you.
Yeah, that resonates so much. I remember when I was living in New York City, a very masculine city, a very masculine lifestyle. Everything about my conditioning up until that point was very masculine. I remember just feeling so drawn to this thing called the divine feminine or the sacred feminine. I was like, I don't know what that is, but it sounds amazing. I need to learn more about that. So yeah, that intuitive pull, I think is that's a great answer. Okay.
Cool.
So you talk about all of this being in service to something.
Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you mean by that?
Yeah, that's great, Amanda. So this dimension comes from Mars and Venus and the planets actually in the sky, not necessarily on the chart. There is a way that once you get the basics of being able to look at the round chart wheel and then go, okay, Mars was visible as a morning star, or Mars was invisible or bright or dim or slow or fast or close to the Earth or far away from the Earth. The moment that you start to get that, you start to see, wait, there's a higher octave of my masculine, not just my inner personal masculinity or femininity. And this is what I call the dharmic masculine. So just take that in for a moment. This is what happens when I take as a man, when I take my masculinity and I apply it to the benefit of not just myself. Now go back into the chart and read your Mars by house, by sign, house, and aspects. What ways can I take my Mars and Venus? Mars and Venus are very, very personal planets. Very, very personal. What happens when I transpersonalize them? And that's where you get this Mars to a higher calling, Venus to a higher calling. So here's an example. Everyone who's born has Venus on the chart somewhere in the zodiac, but they also have Venus in the Earth sky or invisible somewhere. The position of Venus in any point along her 19-month cycle, she'll be in one of 13 different phases, just like everyone's born with a lunar phase. That tells you what your femininity, what your inner feminine is meant to contribute to the world and how. So, for example, one of the phases of the Venus cycle is called remembering and embodiment. It's a long 5 to 6 month phase. So anyone born in that particular phase of Venus means that take your Venus sign and house and aspects on your chart. Okay, you understand that. Now, the way that is supposed to contribute something to bettering the world, not just for yourself, is through taking that personal feminine and starting to remember it deeper, to embody it so that you can exemplify it and literally offer it selflessly, generously to others. Look, here's what I'm learning, remembering, and I'm wanting to offer it and share it with you. What can we co-create together? Embodiment. Remembering and embodiment phase. And there's 13 of these phases. So each phase is like its own unique feminine archetype. But it's not an archetype like from the old traditions, Greek, Roman, Chinese, South American, Babylonian. These are archetypes for our, as I call it, our postmodern world, which is all about coming back together as a collective unity. And those are the new 13 feminine archetypes, or the 13 phases. This is all in the Venus book, my book called The Light of Venus. It's all on Amazon. And it literally describes all 13 phases in depth. It shows you how to find yours, gives maps and all that. But that's really what I'm most excited about. These feminine archetypes for, like, one of the phrases I coined in the book is collateral benefit. You always hear about collateral damage. Well, we got to do this and there's going to be some collateral damage. Well, no, if I do this, and this is men too, if I do this and I'm more me, there's going to be ripple effects that will unavoidably and mysteriously benefit other people. It's the ripple effect of benefit, and that comes from Venus at her in her dharmic self.
Okay, so we all have, we find our Venus, Mars in the chart and house, and that tells us about our personal, more internal sacred marriage of masculine and feminine, and gives us a lot of information about that at a personal level, which will also help us at an interpersonal level with the partners we choose and things like that. And then to find the Venus and the Mars in the sky will help us understand how that can contribute to the collective at a greater, not greater, but broader level. A
broader scope, exactly. Yeah. It's like when I first started astrology, I worked with my clients. I wrote articles, a few people read them.
Yeah.
Now, when I read articles, many people read them. So the reach of, but look, I haven't stopped being Adam. I'm still on the hunt for a deeper, better, wider, more beautiful, more awesome version of my masculine and feminine all the time. See, so I'm still Adam. So but I'm expanding now beyond just benefiting myself and my immediate proximity.
I think of it as almost like it's almost for you, like it was a pebble going into the lake before and it creates little ripple effects, but now it's a big boulder going in and creating even more ripple effects.
Lovely. Okay. Yes.
Okay. This is from Sandra. She's wondering how long Venus stays in each phase. It's not totally consistent, right? It's different.
You got it. It's not consistent at all, Sandra. Venus's shortest phase is about 3 to 4 days. Venus's longest phases, there's 2 longest phases, are between 5 and 6 months. So I just want to make a point here. This system of Venus phases actually predates the lunar phase. Everyone knows, I think once you study astrology, you will eventually come upon information about the lunar phase. So we start at the new moon, halfway through is the full moon, come back around to the new moon. Well, did you know that is a relatively recent invention? For thousands, guys, across many cultures, thousands of years, they never work with the lunar phase like this, ever. It wouldn't even have thought of to work like this. Ancient Greece, the Hellenistic lunar phase system was a system of 10, sometimes 11 inconsistent phases. Okay, what we call the full moon now was actually a 3-hour phase. In where you're from, Amanda, Polynesia, the ancient Hawaiians, the ancient Polynesians, their lunar phase had 28 phases, one for each day. Each day of the lunar cycle is one whole unique phase with its own qualities. So what I'm pulling on here is not like, this is cool, no one's ever done this, let me do this different. This is actually ancient precedent. And I'm trying to apply it for our times now, which is way more complex than it was then.
Is this the lunar mansions, or is it different? It's
different. No, that's different. But it's somewhat like the nakshatras. Yes.
Okay.
From the Vedic system, where there's 26 or 27 lunar phases, mansions, but they're demarcated by stars and constellational positions. Yes, and they have different lengths. There's different lengths.
Yeah.
Now, so keep in mind, every one of us can be born in, let's say, Venus, in every sign, all 12 signs. So you got 12 signs that Venus can be born in. You got these 13 phases, 156 combinations at the very minimum, let alone houses. Now you put Venus in a house with certain conjunctions or oppositions or trines. And now you have this is a very, very, very dialed in, unique factor about each of us in terms of the masculine and the feminine. I can tell you, I've counseled many people and I've introduced them to their Venus and Mars phase in the session without any understanding. And some of them have had years and years of astrological understanding, and they had an experience that they never had before. Not because their astrology before was lacking, but because they hadn't gone deeper into the masculine and feminine. I think that this Venus-Mars chart and sky gives you.
Yeah, it's just deepening into more and more layers, which is just incredible. Okay, so yeah. Adam, this is a little bit of a diversion, but I ask all the astrologers on Astrology Hub TV this.
Go for it.
When you encounter someone who is very critical of astrology, so when
yes.
you say I'm an astrologer and they go, what? And they want to engage in a conversation about it, and what do you normally say to critics or naysayers of astrology?
Right. Well, I have to admit, I haven't had a lot of those experiences. The naysayers, the critics of astrology, they haven't crossed my path a lot. However, the few times it's happened, and let's say right now, where I would go with it is, if, and it's a huge if they actually wanted to engage a conversation, because I don't have an interest in kind of like wasting my time with people who want to prove themselves already right. That's just wasted breath. But if they really want to engage, like, I really don't believe in astrology, but I'd like to hear what you have to say, like that, then what I would say is, astrology is nothing more than making meaning of natural phenomena. We can do that through the Bible. We can do that through reading the omens of wind changing direction or anything. It's simply making meaning from natural phenomena. And with our advanced science now, we know lots and lots and lots about the twinkling lights up there. So more that we scientifically know about that stuff up there, the more meaning we can make from it.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah,
so Adam, for those out there who would like to learn more, who would like to know what Venus phase they're in, what we're born in, what Mars phase they were born in, they want to learn more about the soul sign map of Synastry.
Yeah.
How do they find you?
Thanks. Real simple. For the Venus work, for all the Venus stuff, the best is the Light of Venus. You can get it on my website. You can get it on Amazon and probably everywhere else. And not just in America, it's all over. For the Mars, there is a system of Mars phases that I also just lectured on at the conference that we just returned from, which is not in book form yet, but there is a downloadable video from my store all about the Mars phases, where I basically take us through each of the 13 Mars phases. If people want to go deeper than that, meaning they want to go further, to be able to identify the Mars and Venus phases in charts that they themselves are now working with, there is something called on my site the Mars Venus training. And that's, I believe it's 15 hours more of audios and handouts and basically classroom instruction and lots of sample charts and how to calculate all this for yourself and then how to bring them together. There are also select topics. There's this very special moment that's happening this summer, men, and I did want to mention it. I know, I think all the astrologers on your panel coming up for the predictive in June. Mars will be at its highest and brightest and reddest in color, visible color, no telescope needed this summer. Okay. That event, when Mars is highest, brightest, and closest to Earth, reddest, is what's called the transcendence phase of Mars. There is a long article on the transcendence phase on my site that has to do with reconfiguring the archetype of transcendence. No longer to get us out of the body, to transcend the limitations of our linear body, but actually transcend our limitations to living our full self. And so that describes that article, or that describes that phase extensively. And there's a lot of other good stuff on there. There's free articles too about the masculine and feminine. Yeah.
When you say that Mars is going to be in the brightest, closest, reddest in its phase, is that what you mean? Like
exactly.
In its cycle?
In its cycle, that's right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. And let me just give the date. That happens on July 27th. Is when Mars is exactly opposite the sun in our skies. So that means Mars will be overhead, a beautiful dark night with Mars brightest, highest, and reddest at midnight.
Wow, Adam, that is the day my brother gets married. That is really interesting. I'll be in Seattle I wonder what that would mean just for them. I mean,
well, I don't know if they're open to, but there's a word called propitiating. It might be good for you on behalf of, if they're not into the symbolic archetypes and energies, higher energies. It might mean that a great blessing you can give to the couple, is to basically make prayers to propitiate Mars, to bless this union, and bring in all the Mars qualities, right? Excellence, like taking no BS, just being direct and fully upfront and honest, being assertive when we need to, standing up for and defending what we need to, even if we're afraid to. And you might invoke look, that's the day that Mars is doing that. There's probably other things going on in the chart that you'll want to look at as well. It's not just the Mars story, right?
Right.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Seems pretty substantial though. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. Adam, thank you very, very much for being here today on Astrology Hub TV. It's been great to have this conversation with you and to have you back in front of our community. I know it's been about a year since we have had you, so it's really wonderful to have you, and lots of great comments in the chat if you want to check in and see what people are saying. It's been really awesome for me to watch. Okay, and then just a reminder for all of you that we have our summer forecast on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific. It's free. We're featuring 4 different astrologers who will be covering the most important themes and aspects of this summer. We will be featuring Gemini Brett, Carol Ferris, Divina Del Sol, and Kai Pacha. So they'll each give an individual take on the summer events, and then we will have a panel where you can ask questions. And I always love the panels. That for me is my favorite part. So it always gets nice and lively. That's at 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday, the 4th. Please register for that now and reserve your seat. We have, I think, very close to 10,000 people registered for this already. And I think we're probably going to have closer to 12,000. So it's amazing. We're going to have some great group energy, and it'll be a wonderful way for all of us to kick off the summer together. All right, so that's happening. Please register. If you are a member of the Inner Circle, you do not need to register. You're going to receive the links directly. So just look out for that. And then we will be here same time, same place next week. Can't wait to connect in with you again then. And Adam, once again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you soon. Thank you for making astrology a part of your life.